Hey everybody, I'm Katallina, and today we're here to talk about episode 12 of Vampire Dormitory. And so we've reached the final curtain, and getting Ruka and Mito to their happy ending has certainly been one hell of a bumpy ride. I thought this episode was pretty good though, because they did a really good job of making sure that we dealt with the core problem that was going on at the end of last episode. Making sure that we get at least a little time with the two of them actually being aware of everything and actually knowing how they feel about each other. And then, interestingly enough, setting us up with something that could hypothetically lead to a season 2 if the studio and the companies behind it so desire. Let's just do this whole thing in order. We'll start by talking with how the major conflict was resolved. And of course, that major conflict was the situation where Mito was set up to potentially marry Len, and the fact that she had lost her memories and that she was, at the start of this episode, still technically a boy. And it was all resolved rather simply, and it all tied back to the sucre, the choker that Ruka gave Mito early in the series. And what I found interesting about that is that in last episode, he actually finds and picks it up and the heart has gone fully black. And he thinks that that means that Mito has no love left in her heart for him. Well, his heart, because he thinks Mito's a guy, but that's beside the point. Anyway, he thinks Mito doesn't love him anymore. And I mean, Mito is under a spell and doesn't have her memories, so her feelings are being blocked. But in my humble opinion, from watching what happened in this episode, it wasn't a question of whether Mito's feelings were what were functioning. It's actually been about Ruka's own feelings this whole time, and his discomfort and uncertainty about who or what Mito actually is, and the fact that he didn't have a full set of truth, or that he didn't have a full set of faith in what he was feeling, is actually one of the key things that was to blame. Don't get me wrong, I still think that Mito should have been much more upfront much sooner. I think the series hypothetically might have done better that way, but that's not what we got, and that doesn't seem to be what the key message of the sucre actually was at the end of this episode, when we got to the confrontation and everything. I also find it kind of funny that we see Ruka break into the wedding, we see Ruka approach Mito, we see Ruka kiss Mito, we see all this stuff going on, and nobody at any point during this whole situation does anything to try and stop it. Right up until the very end, it becomes apparent that Mito has her memories back. And then Len's father thinks he's going to erase everyone's memories. And it's like, really? It took you that long? Like, these villains were really dumb. I'm sorry. There's a lot of stuff I liked about this series. There's a reason we got to episode 12. But holy crap, dude. These villains were dumb. Like, really dumb. So it was interesting also seeing how Len reacted to everything that went down, both at this wedding ceremony where he basically lost his bride, for lack of a better term, and at the end of the series when we see him about to drive away on his motorcycle. Mito actually comes out and chases him and is like, hey, wait, I want to say goodbye and stuff. And instead of just being a good sport, now, I mean, he does say he wants her to be happy and all this other crap, says or thinks, depending on what topic we're discussing. But what I really found interesting and frustrating is somebody who was a fan of him for like 80% of the anime. I really find it interesting that even after all of this stuff has happened, even after he has lost, when this whole situation goes down, he can't help using a manipulation tactic and going, what, you didn't bring me a gift? When Mito had no idea that he was going anywhere, and when Mito, in my humble opinion, should have stayed 2,000 meters away from him and should never have been near him in the first place. He isn't satisfied with merely saying goodbye. Oh no, that's not going to be good enough for Len, because he's learned nothing from the entire situation he's just been through. Instead, he grabs Mito and he kisses her and he tells her not to tell Ruka. Yup, certified 100% scumbag. There is very little any character can do to tick me off more than trying to get somebody to cheat on their partner or grabbing and initiating something that would constitute cheating on a partner. You are gross and you deserve to be alone. I cannot believe I spent 80% of this anime rooting for you. Yuck. On a much more positive note, we do have the reality that I do appear to be correct about what I thought about Kori from the beginning, which is that he was 100% playing 4D chess. It is absolutely confirmed that he has known what's been going on pretty much since word go, and that he has been working and manipulating and dealing with things and everything else, because not only did he want to get Ruka together with his destined mate, but he had to make sure that Ruka was actually intelligent enough to figure out who that was and to reach that conclusion on his own so that it would be organic. First off, because without it being organic, it wouldn't be real love. And second off, because without it being an organic deduction by Ruka, how in the world would he ever be fit to be the leader of the vampires? On the downside, I am bummed out that we do not actually find out why it is that Kori needs to step down. That is a real bummer and is one of the lore aspects that I'm really sad we did not get answered. Another thing I will say on the downer side of things in general is that I do still feel that there is so much potential that was lost or wasted by not actually giving us more concrete lore for these vampires. I think the world building in this could have been much richer. I realize this is a romance. I realize that this is shoujo. I realize that emotion takes key over everything else because of those two facts. But it really is a bummer, and it is actually something I've preferred much more strongly in the shonen romances I've watched this season, and we'll have to see how that goes as I watch more seasons of anime, but that is just my personal opinion. That's also how I tend to write, so that's definitely more of a me thing. We get some kind of semi-closure for Juri and for Takura, which is interesting but also frustrating. I mean, they kind of just leave everything up in the air and let the audience kind of guess at what the heck's going on, because Takura tries to talk to Juri, and Juri basically tells Takura not to worry about anything, and it was just a hot mess. The one other thing I do want to say something about is the ending, which I thought was an interesting ending, where they have a new transfer student show up at the school, and Ruka is totally like glowering over the presence of this person, and we note that he has gray hair and red eyes like Ruka, so it's entirely possible that this guy, I think his name was Luze or something, is actually somehow tied into Ruka and his family. And Mito was all like, oh, and it's like, oh, you gotta be kidding me, dude, like really? Like, you just went through all that shit, you are lined up hypothetically to get married, and your reaction is, oh, like, seriously, as if I didn't think you were bird-brained enough. Anyway, though, overall I thought this has been a pretty fun season to follow. This anime has been absolutely wacky and off the wall. One minute it's had me cheering, the next minute it's had me screaming. It's been the anime equivalent of a soap opera, which is normally not something I would consciously watch. I certainly didn't get what I thought I was going to get when I came in. This certainly didn't meet my initial expectations, but it did do some interesting things that I have found interesting throughout the course of its run, as you will obviously hear if you watch all my different videos on it. Mainly the one that really sticks with me is the way that they shifted Len's character. I thought that was very interesting, even though I was personally very pissed off. And overall, I've had a pretty good time. I'd say this is probably about a 3-star anime. They start there, this one stopped there. That's actually pretty par for the course. Anyway, I'd love to know what you guys thought. Did you love this? Did you hate this? Were there things you wish were different? Would you like to see a season 2? Drop a comment below and let me know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Talk to you later. Bye!